Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital Today channel. Michael and Jacinda get into bed together. Is there a real passion for loyalty? Soon, Jacinda Bracken and Michael Corinthos might get together. When Jacinda's loyalty is demonstrated, will there be genuine passion? Michael is doing his part to show Jacinda that he's someone she can depend on. Jacinda and Michael's bond is deepening, so they're starting to feel some trust and respect on both sides. When Jacinda betrays Nina Reeves for Michael's sake, their bond should grow even stronger. He will certainly appreciate it if Jacinda gives Michael Nina's bribery check and demonstrates that she is willing to oppose Nina in spite of all the money she is offered. Something like this has the potential to significantly alter Michael and Jacinda's relationship. To support his claim, Michael is faking a relationship with Jacinda, but they may not be doing so for long. When Jacinda demonstrates how devoted she is to this alliance, will Michael and Jacinda fall in love? GH fans can tell Michael and Jacinda are already feeling a bit of a spark, but it could grow into a roaring flame if they let it. Jacinda and Michael could easily hit the sheets at some point following this Nina check situation. By betraying Nina and prioritizing Michael, Jacinda will demonstrate her love for Michael and may inspire him to take things to the next level, for real this time. Jacinda and Michael already put on a little show for Dante Falconeri at one point in a suite. To give the impression that he had just completed the task with Jacinda, Michael buttoned up his pants as he emerged from the bathroom without a shirt. If Dante or someone else saw Jacinda and Michael actually getting hot, it would be good for them. It would assist Michael and Jacinda in selling this alibi, but that would merely be an added benefit to the genuine relationship that is forming. Michael Corinthos had always been a man of careful calculation, a person who measured every move and guarded his heart as fiercely as he did his secrets, yet now, standing in the quiet of the Corinthos living room, the last thing he expected was to feel the electric pull of something entirely uncontrollable. The revelation of Jacinda Bracken's true biological mother had hit him like a bolt of lightning, an unforeseen twist that left him reeling yet strangely exhilarated. Jacinda had always been a puzzle to him, her strength, charm, and quiet resilience drawing him in despite the chaos that seemed to follow both of them wherever they went. But learning about her lineage, the hidden threads that tied her past to a life she'd never fully known, changed the way he looked at her. There was a vulnerability there, one that didn't diminish her power but rather deepened it, and Michael couldn't help but feel a protective urge blossom alongside a growing admiration. The bond between them had been steadily strengthening, rooted initially in necessity and mutual advantage, but now it seemed poised to tip into something more intimate, something real. Jacinda had already proven herself loyal in ways that mattered deeply to him, and her recent actions, surrendering Nina Reeves' bribery check to Michael despite the tempting promise of money, putting herself at risk to protect him, had shifted the balance entirely. The gesture wasn't just a proof of loyalty, it was an unspoken declaration that her heart could be trusted, and Michael found himself responding not with strategy but with genuine emotion. There had been times when he and Jacinda had pretended for appearances, creating scenarios that made them look like a couple, a convenient arrangement to strengthen alibis and manipulate the perceptions of others, such as Dante Falconeri. He remembered vividly one instance in a hotel suite where Jacinda had looked stunning, confident yet playful, as he had emerged from the bathroom shirtless, hastily buttoning his pants to stage a scenario meant for someone else's eyes. The pretense had been amusing, certainly functional, but underneath the charade, there had been glances, touches, moments of laughter, and shared confidences that hinted at a connection deeper than either of them had admitted. Now, with the Nina check incident still fresh, the stakes were higher, the risks greater, and the allure of their closeness far more intoxicating. Michael's mind wandered to the possibilities. What would it mean if they allowed themselves to cross the line from pretense into reality? He felt the pull of Jacinda's presence, her confidence mingling with her vulnerability, creating a tension that was nearly unbearable. He could imagine her in the soft glow of the living room, her eyes locked on his, the weight of trust and unspoken desire hanging between them like charged air before a storm. She had already placed her loyalty in his hands, and he knew instinctively that she wasn't one to do so lightly. In that moment, Michael realized that the alibi they had maintained, the supposed relationship for the sake of appearances, might have outlived its purpose, because there was a real, undeniable spark now, a fire that neither could ignore if they chose to be honest with themselves. Michael's thoughts turned to the intimacy they had hinted at in fleeting gestures and stolen moments, the way a brush of a hand or a lingering look had felt far too electric to be merely friendly. The idea of falling into bed with Jacinda, of surrendering to the passion that had been simmering beneath their interactions for weeks, seemed less like a temptation and more like an inevitability. And yet, there was the weight of reality, the dangers, the deception, the entanglement with Nina Reeves, but Jacinda's courage had begun to eclipse Michael's hesitation. She had chosen him, in essence, over the allure of easy money and moral compromise, and the act had spoken louder than any words could. It had proven that her heart was aligned with his, even if their circumstances demanded careful maneuvering. In the quiet of that room, Michael found himself imagining what it would be like to be unguarded with her, to let go of all the schemes and pretenses and simply exist in the moment, bodies pressed together, hearts racing in tandem, the tension of the day melting away in the heat of their connection. He could picture the sighs and whispered confessions, the way Jacinda's eyes might glimmer in the dim light as she revealed parts of herself she had never shared before, the depth of emotion and desire mingling seamlessly. And yet, the thought of Dante or anyone else walking in, witnessing the culmination of this charged intimacy, brought a mischievous, almost thrilling edge to the scenario. It was a tantalizing blend of danger and desire, of secrecy and passion, the perfect storm that seemed destined to redefine both of their lives. Michael's mind replayed the moments leading up to this, how they had laughed together while plotting and deceiving, how their hands had occasionally brushed, sending jolts of electricity through him, how Jacinda's steady gaze had met his during moments of tension, a silent promise of understanding and loyalty. That combination of trust and unspoken longing created a magnetic pull neither could resist indefinitely. The deeper Michael considered it, the more certain he became that their connection was evolving beyond the confines of strategy and necessity. Jacinda's willingness to risk her safety, to act decisively against someone as formidable as Nina, had showcased a bravery and moral clarity that resonated with Michael on every level. Her heart, her loyalty, and her intelligence were the keys that unlocked a desire within him he had thought long buried beneath years of betrayal, responsibility, and the weight of the Corinthos legacy. Michael imagined the subtle ways he could reciprocate, how he might show her that her sacrifices had not gone unnoticed, how their shared vulnerabilities could blossom into something deeply passionate and profoundly real. The thought of Jacinda lying beside him, her warmth against his, the intensity of their union building not just from physical attraction but from a foundation of trust and mutual respect, was more compelling than any scheme, more urgent than any danger surrounding them. In this hypothetical moment, Michael could feel the difference between lust and longing, between superficial connection and a bond forged in fire and tempered by loyalty. He understood that what they shared could become a love that transcended manipulation, that the pretense could evolve into authenticity, and that the stakes of the outside world could no longer restrain the pull between them. Jacinda's loyalty had shifted the paradigm entirely. What had been a tactical alliance now held the potential to become a true partnership, a melding of hearts as well as minds. The very idea made Michael's pulse quicken, a mingling of anticipation and fear of losing control over his carefully compartmentalized emotions. Yet, fear was no match for desire, and Michael could sense that Jacinda felt it too. The subtle, unspoken exchanges, the quickened breaths when they were near each other, the casual touches that lingered just a moment too long, all were signs that the spark had ignited into something far more combustible. And then came the question of timing: when, and under what circumstances, would they finally give in to the chemistry that had been simmering quietly but insistently? Michael imagined a private moment, perhaps after a day of scheming and confrontation, when the world outside the room could not intrude, when the pressures of Nina, alibis, and Corinthos family drama faded into the background. He saw Jacinda looking at him with a mixture of challenge and invitation, and he knew that whatever happened next could change everything between them forever. It was a moment charged with possibility, where loyalty, desire, and the thrill of secrecy converged into a powerful crescendo. Michael understood that crossing this line would not only be an act of passion but also a declaration, a recognition that they were allies, confidants, and something far more intimate than either had admitted before. He could feel the weight of that decision, the heady mix of risk and reward, the exhilaration of surrendering to a desire that had been building steadily, inexorably, like a tide against the shore. And as he pictured it, the room seemed to grow warmer, the air thicker with anticipation, until the imagined moment of surrender, the moment they might finally fall into each other's arms, felt almost inevitable. Jacinda's loyalty had earned his trust, her courage had earned his admiration, and her very presence, the combination of wit, charm, and undeniable magnetism, had earned his desire. In that instant, Michael Corinthos realized that he was no longer just pretending, no longer just using a relationship for convenience. The lines between duty, passion, and genuine affection had blurred, leaving only the raw, unfiltered reality of what they felt for one another. And as his thoughts settled on Jacinda, her hand brushing against his, her eyes meeting his in a way that conveyed everything words could not, Michael understood that the question was no longer whether they would give in, but how long it would be before the spark became a blazing flame, one that neither of them could resist, one that promised real passion built upon trust, loyalty, and the undeniable bond they had forged in the heat of shared trials. In the quiet aftermath of revelation and bravery, Michael Corinthos and Jacinda Bracken stood on the precipice of something dangerous, thrilling, and completely irresistible, and it was only a matter of time before the walls they had both carefully erected around their hearts came tumbling down in the most exquisite way imaginable. Michael Corinthos had always been a man of careful calculation, a strategist in every aspect of life, especially when it came to love, or, more accurately, when it came to avoiding love. His heart had been tempered by betrayal, loss, and the weight of responsibility that came with being a Corinthos. Yet Jacinda Bracken was different. She wasn't just another person in a world of danger and scheming, she was a force, someone whose strength, intelligence, and unyielding loyalty had begun to chip away at his armor. And now, with the revelation of her true biological mother, a part of Jacinda's life that had been hidden even from her, Michael found himself staring at her with an intensity he hadn't known he was capable of. The discovery made Jacinda even more real, more human to him, not fragile, but layered, complex, and someone who had overcome unseen struggles. Michael's protective instinct surged. He wanted to be the man she could rely on, not just as an ally, but as someone who truly understood her. The deeper he got to know Jacinda, the more he realized that their connection had grown beyond convenience or strategy. Initially, pretending to be together had been a necessity, a way to protect themselves, to keep Dante and others at bay, to give Michael the alibi he needed. But now, every interaction, every lingering look, and every shared secret seemed to carry a weight far greater than the charade required. Jacinda had proven herself over and over, the latest proof being her decision to surrender Nina Reeves' bribery check to him. It wasn't just a simple act of loyalty, it was a gamble, a bold defiance against someone powerful and dangerous. She had chosen Michael over the temptation of easy money and self-interest, and that decision ignited something in him, something raw and undeniable. Michael couldn't deny it any longer, he was drawn to Jacinda in a way that went far beyond attraction. Her bravery, her willingness to fight for what was right even when it risked her safety, made him see her in a new light. And as he thought about the moments they had shared, the staged intimacy for Dante, the playful tension, the casual touches that lingered just a moment too long, he felt a pull he could no longer resist. The pretense had served its purpose, but the line between acting and reality was blurring. He imagined what it would feel like to close that gap, to give in to the passion simmering beneath the surface. There was a heat in the way he remembered Jacinda's eyes locking onto his, a mix of challenge and invitation that he found impossible to ignore. The tension between them had been building gradually, a slow burn that promised a firestorm if unleashed. Michael thought about the private moments they had shared, the stolen glances and brief touches, and the way Jacinda had made him feel alive in a way that nothing else had. She was unpredictable, courageous, and entirely captivating, and he knew that if they allowed themselves to act on their desires, there would be no turning back. He pictured a moment alone with her, away from the scheming, away from the Corinthos legacy, away from Nina and her bribes, a moment where the world could fall away and only they would exist. He imagined her reaching for him, her fingers brushing against his skin, the intensity of her gaze making his pulse quicken. He could feel the electricity in the air, the undeniable pull drawing them together. And when he thought about surrendering to that moment, Michael realized that it would be more than just passion, it would be a declaration. A declaration of trust, of mutual respect, and of a connection that went far beyond the superficial. Jacinda had already shown him that she was willing to risk everything for him. That act of loyalty, simple yet profound, made him see her heart in a way that words could never capture. And he wanted to respond in kind. He wanted to show her that her courage had not gone unnoticed, that her willingness to put herself on the line had earned his admiration, respect, and desire. Michael imagined the intimacy they could share, not just physical, but emotional, a merging of minds and hearts that could form the foundation of something lasting. Even as he fantasized, Michael's mind raced with scenarios. He thought about the possibility of someone walking in on them, like Dante or another Corinthos family member, and the thrill of being caught added a dangerous edge to his desire. The idea of their passion being witnessed, even unintentionally, was exhilarating. It was a heady mix of secrecy and longing, danger and intimacy, that made the prospect of surrendering to one another even more irresistible. Michael could feel the tension coiling tighter and tighter within him, a spring ready to release in the most exquisite way. He remembered the staged moment in the hotel suite, when he had emerged from the bathroom shirtless and buttoning his pants, creating the illusion of intimacy for someone else's benefit. At the time, it had been a charade, a performance designed to protect them both. But now, thinking back, he realized that there had been sparks of reality in that performance, hints of something real simmering beneath the surface. And now, with Jacinda's loyalty clearly demonstrated and the bond between them stronger than ever, those sparks threatened to ignite a fire that neither of them could contain. Michael thought about Jacinda's courage in standing up to Nina, about the way she had chosen him over temptation, and he felt a swell of emotion that made him ache to be close to her. He wanted to hold her, to feel the warmth of her body against his, to experience the passion that had been simmering in their interactions for so long. He imagined their hands entwined, their breaths mingling, the intensity of their connection building to a point where words were unnecessary, where desire spoke louder than any conversation ever could. Jacinda, for her part, had been feeling the same pull. She had grown to trust Michael in ways that went beyond the superficial, recognizing in him a man who was capable of loyalty, courage, and deep emotion. Her own desires had been growing, the spark of attraction she felt for him now threatening to ignite a flame that could no longer be contained. She thought about the moments they had shared, the playful touches, the stolen glances, the subtle intimacies that had built a foundation of trust and longing. Jacinda could feel the chemistry between them, undeniable and electric, and she knew that acting on it would change everything, but she wanted that change. She wanted Michael in a way she had never allowed herself to want anyone before. The tension between them had become almost unbearable, a constant undercurrent in their interactions. Every glance, every brush of a hand, every shared smile carried with it the weight of unspoken desire. Both Michael and Jacinda were acutely aware of it, even if neither had fully admitted it aloud. And now, with Jacinda's loyalty proven and the danger of Nina's schemes looming, the conditions were ripe for the spark to become a flame. Michael imagined a moment where they were alone together, away from the eyes of the world. He pictured Jacinda leaning into him, her lips brushing against his in a tentative, testing kiss that quickly deepened into something more passionate. He could feel the heat of her body against his, the way her breath quickened with anticipation, and the thrill of finally giving in to the desire that had been building between them. He could sense the shift in their dynamic, the way their bond was evolving from trust and respect into intimacy and longing. And he knew that this moment, if it happened, would be transformative. It would be a turning point in their relationship, a moment where pretense fell away and reality took its place. Jacinda, too, could feel the inevitability of the moment. She knew that her feelings for Michael were real, that the attraction she had tried to ignore was genuine. She felt the same thrill of anticipation, the same electric tension, the same desire to finally close the distance between them. And as she imagined their bodies pressed together, the intensity of their connection, she knew that nothing would be the same afterward. They would be bound together not just by loyalty and necessity, but by passion, by choice, and by the undeniable magnetism that had drawn them to each other from the start. Michael's thoughts were consumed with Jacinda, with the idea of surrendering to the desire that had been building between them for weeks. He imagined the warmth of her skin, the softness of her lips, the way her body would mold perfectly against his. He felt the tension in his own body, the need to bridge the gap, the longing to finally give in to the attraction that had been simmering under the surface. And he knew that Jacinda felt the same way, that she was just as aware of the pull between them, just as eager to explore the passion that had been building. The danger of their situation, the scheming of Nina Reeves, the pressure of Corinthos' family obligations, all of it only added to the thrill. The risk made their connection more intense, more urgent, more irresistible. Michael imagined the moment when they would finally be alone, when